Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Cheryl Lindsay. I'm a pastor, teacher, and avid planner. And one of the things that I have enjoyed so much about starting this YouTube channel and really um, diving into it is doing some of this planning, some of these planning videos to share you a little bit about my process, how it works, and what I do. I'm going to show you my weekly process. I plan on Thursdays. Typically, the reason I plan on Thursdays is because that gives me time to evaluate the current week, see where I stand, and make plans in advance for the upcoming week. While I am doing that, it enables me um, to send out reminders of things. For instance, if I'm convening a meeting and I want to send out a reminder or the agenda, that's also part of my planning process. I am a very functional planner, and so uh, I spend more time on Thursday prepping for the week ahead by doing things while I'm planning versus just laying out my week and coming up with a list of to-dos. Now, that's not part of it. It certainly is. But as I'm doing that, I'm also executing things that need to be done. It, for me, has been very helpful in terms of being able to be really organized for the upcoming week in a very intentional way. So the first thing I do is just sort of lay out some things in the week and sort of keeping in mind how I like to segment out this 2-page spread. The nice thing about Hobonichi, this is the Hobonichi Cousin Avec. It's an A5 size planner that includes a monthly, weekly, and daily section. The Avec means it's half the year. There are 2 books for the entire year, which makes it a little bit easier to carry, but still, all of that in one bound book I find very helpful. So I just kind of lay out what the week looks like. Let me show you the current week that I'm in. Today is the 9th, and I'm planning. And I'm kind of just going to take a look back to review, to remind myself of what I'm putting in these spaces. So I use this sidebar to really pull out critical actions. Some people might refer to that as priorities. Same difference. But I like the word action because it's not as passive to me in certain ways. It's reminding me that I'm acting on things, not just, oh, this is important. No, I have to take action. So in terms of words, I like that. The section up top, I have this first section where I write a thought from my devotional from each morning. I'm not going to get into that today. I do have as part of my prayer journal set up. And when I do a video showing you how all of my various notebooks and journals intersect, then I might go into more detail about that. But I write that every day. Sometimes I might not write until the evening, or I might skip a day and have to go back, but it's just one sentence, and I leave that space there for that. This next section are for specific actions that I have to take that are specific to a given day, or they could also be birthdays, anniversaries, special dates that I want to note, and I use that space for that. Hobonichi gives you the time breakdown from like 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. I obviously don't need that much time for scheduling, so I block off this part for my actual scheduled appointments and events and tasks. And then I segment this final section in order to categorize the actions that I have for the week. So let me continue here. talking and doing this is that not necessarily as focused as I would be. So I've explained the action. Discover, that's my word for the year. Having a word for the year, this is my 4th year of doing that. I always make sure that word is written on my weekly spread in a highlighted color in some way that is highlighted, prominent, so it reminds me every time I look at this page, which is every day. Then I have certain categories that I keep here, and I put the tasks that I have for the week, the to-dos, the actions, within those categories. So the first one is connect. And that is any sort of connection that I need to make with someone. And typically that means I'm initiating that. And it might be like either a first time or it also could be maintaining, if I really want to call someone I haven't spoken to in a long time and I want to highlight that or remind myself, I would put in that section. Then I have my call email. This is not returning phone calls, messages left, or returning emails. These are, again, things that typically I'm initiating. So you might say, what's the difference between connect and call and email? Connection tends to be, has a different feel to it. I mean, it's hard for me to describe to you how this is different. These tend to be more business-like, routine. Oh, I need to talk to, for instance, the music director at church about our next worship series and the themes. So I would probably put that here because it's something we do routinely. And I don't need to highlight it in the same type of way. I just need a reminder. The connectors might be, I have a friend from seminary, and this is actually a good one. I do need to write down that we get together maybe once a year, maybe twice, and have lunch and we catch up. And she was my closest friend in seminary, closest colleague. And we started together. We didn't finish at the same time, but we have maintained that friendship in a very particular way. But we don't talk all the time. Like, we're on Facebook and occasionally we'll text. But we need that sitting down for a couple of hours, connecting on what's God doing in our lives. And so that's what I would put here. So and that's why this is sort of up top, and then this is because and this is below it, because this really is very important to me. And it's also the thing that I tend to sort of put on the back. Oh, I can do that anytime. Here I can prioritize it, give it some preferential treatment. So but that's just my section, and this is just to give you an idea of how I do this. So then another priority, or 2 priorities, and I used to have these in the same area, but I really want to prioritize both of them. What I'm reading, and this in many ways is recording what I'm reading or reminding myself to read certain things. This is not reading for pleasure. This really is, I have all these books that I want to get to that are either professional development, they may be theological books, they may be books that I'm reading on leadership or things to help me be a better pastor or any sort of personal development, those things. Or it could be an autobiography or memoir that I'm reading, or a political book that I'm reading, a historical book. I love to read. And I like to read a variety of things. And so and I love books. So in order to make sure I'm actually doing the reading of these books and not just collecting them and having them available to actually get through them, I prioritize and give this its own section. Then writing, what writing tasks do I have that I have to do for the week? And so I put that in there beyond my sermon, which is sort of a given, and that goes under Sunday prep anyway. So then I have other things I have to do professionally, and I just put a place for administrative tasks. And part of the reason that I segment some of these things out is because I will do them I'll look at my schedule and see where I have blocks of time to hit some of these, and having them in categories can help me. So I might just put a block of time to do all the administrative things that I need to do, for instance. And then I have a place for social media, because I do a lot of social media things professionally as well as personally. And I want to keep that in the forefront as well in terms of the things I need to do. Now, I also have this section here that I leave blank when I'm on Thursdays typically. It might even, as you can see here, it's still blank. I had a lot of big things, I normally don't have this many actions, and you can see I'm still working through them. But that's not alarming, because I did a lot of administrative things and meetings and appointments here to have the latter part of the work week, if you will, even though I'm a pastor, so I work on Sunday. And I typically am working on Saturday, but I have lots of time to actually devote to these things. So that doesn't alarm me, because I know that. But I leave this section open as a flexible section. If I have a particular project that I want to just focus on that project and list all the actions needed to work on that, I might put that here. Or I might just, random things that don't fit into these categories could also go here and don't reach the level of priority to be here. I have a list of things that I do in terms of Sunday preparation as well, and I will fill that in. You can see as I have here, and because I am a pastor, that's a big part of the biggest part of my week is making sure that worship on Sunday and all the aspects of that are taken care of. And so that's what Sunday prep is primarily about. So in terms of the process, then I will put in my my appointments. Then will start filling in here as much as possible. So the first step is just to set up the layout of the weekly page. And because I primarily work off of this page, this is where I begin. I mentioned this planner has a monthly spread, it has a weekly spread, and dailies. The dailies I use for notes and for trackers and things like that. I'm not going to set that up, but I will give you a look at that in a little bit. So because I'm recording on my phone, which is my primary place for my official calendar, I actually had to write down all of the things that I need to record here to ensure that I have them all down here. Another aspect of this calendar is it's in military time. So it goes from the hours, afternoon, you have 13, 14, and so on, versus going to like just 1 p.m., 2 p.m., which is okay. But sometimes I have to think, okay, so what is 6:30 in military hours? It's 18:30. And so I'm just going to write down what I have scheduled. I do need to make a call on this day because I haven't set a time for it, but I did say I was going to call that day. So this is kind of important. So for instance, let me show you how this works. On Tuesday at 6:30, I have a board meeting. I'm the treasurer of this board. And we have some new members joining, and I'm doing an orientation with them. Also presenting a budget. So I have some actions I need to take to get ready for that. So I'm going to list those here. They're not so in depth that I need to do them this week. I can probably do them during the day here, but I do want to make sure that I write down what actions are associated with that. And that's pretty important, so I'm putting in actions, and I'm not going to put it down in this section because often this section, the beginning of the week, I tend to look at this part more so than this. I just know myself enough to know that. I'm doing a prayer call for peace in the world on Wednesdays. And on this, I write down everything that I'm planning to do for the week. I do this week to week. I don't pre-fill any of my weeks because of the way that I do this. I'm thinking it through even as I am writing down what needs to happen. That prayer call, because it is just for, it's not just for world peace, but it is a specific, and I'm doing it every week for a particular period of time. I've already done the prep for that. But I do need to send reminders and sort of promote it to remind people to pray. And also to share, I record it, to share the recording of it. I'm going to a dinner that I just need to show up for. When I have got the invitation, all the information for it is in my phone. So I'm just putting it there so I can look at the week and know what's going on. I have a conference call for a clergy retreat that I am helping to plan. And actually, the only thing I have to do for that is make that call. So I'm pretty good, I think, on that. I do have a prayer call here. The prayer call actually is at 9, which is technically here, but I have a reminder on my phone. The point is to have it there as a visual reminder that it's happening. I think this is at 10 o'clock, an MLK Mass that I will be participating in at a high school, local high school. I show up and I will pray with them, so I don't have to do anything in advance for that. Here, have incoming board members. Our new board members at church are coming on board. They'll have their first meeting on that Sunday, the 19th. We're doing an orientation with them the day before to review some procedures and documents and things like that. I will probably need to do like a sort of an opening devotional for that. Very brief, but more than just an opening prayer. So I do want to prepare for that in advance. Then on Sunday, of course, we have worship at 10, and then our board meeting is at 11:30. I'm going to write this down here. Ideally, I will do this before the board meeting, but my board report, I actually don't submit this in advance. I speak to these things versus sending it out to them in advance, but I do want to have that prepared in advance. Oh, I also, let me not forget to write this down. A friend of mine is being ordained on Sunday afternoon. Now, I'll write this here. I am presenting a scripture. I also need to find out, let me write it here. I also need to know color, robes, what's the plan for that? The other thing I need to do, not scheduled, planning Ash Wednesday service. And I just need to plan that. I do need to connect with local clergy to invite participation in that service. All right, so now I have laid out what I'm doing for the week. And one of the reasons I love a weekly layout in the hourly format is because now I can see where I have pockets of time that are available. Now, Monday typically is my Sabbath day, so I try actually not to have a single thing on Mondays. Fortunately, this is a conference call, and it's in the evening, so I would have had at least 24 hours without having a meeting or anything scheduled that I have to do. Obviously, emergencies come up, but I try to keep this day free. I'll be in the office. This is the next thing I'm going to plan, is when I'm going to be in the office this day. I have this meeting here, which is nowhere near the office, but I want to leave the office to go to it. It's at 6, so I give myself a lot of time because rush hour, let's just say I'll leave at 4. That way I can get there. I'm doing the orientation. That way I can help if I need to set anything up. I leave at 4. I think I'm going to take this. So this will be my end time. And I don't always do this, but I'm thinking 12 to 4 as my office hours. Thursday, you know what I didn't write on Thursday? I have a meeting on Thursday in town here. I remembered it because that's why I scheduled the conference call for early in the day. I'm going to do the same thing, 12 to 4 on Thursday. I publish my office hours. I call them office and community hours because I'm in town. I live 50 minutes away from the church I serve. Planning to move, but haven't done that yet. So I only come into and I'm part-time. So I only come into the office basically for 2 blocks of time during the course of the week. In addition to Sunday, I tend to do a lot of the worship prep, sermon writing at home. And I also, just in general, do a lot of work at home. But I still come in so that I have a presence here, I'm involved in the community, and if people want to drop in, I can let them know when I'll be around. So those will be my 2 blocks there where I'll be in the office, but you can see I basically have this is a meeting that probably lasts about an hour and a half. I give myself until 2, and it never takes. I'm normally back in the office way before 2. It is literally like half a block away. So typically we're done, well done by 1:30. So actually I'm normally back in my office by 1:30. So I have a lot of time here. But again, Thursday is my planning day, so I'll probably do some planning there. Planning for all things, personal, professional, all things. So now I can see where I have space available to work on certain things. There are some tasks and things that I have that I don't write down because they're routine. And sometimes I think I shouldn't do that because not having them down makes it seem like I have more space than I do. Here I also I do social media for a local association, and I want to make sure I remember to do this on this day. It is in the planner which I have, which is a Jibon Techo weekly hourly format. It's I think that's, what is that? B6 slim size, so it's a little bit smaller than the A5. Someone recommended that I tried it because I was saying I wish that this was a little bit smaller, but actually what I found was that I have a smaller case for it, and it works out just fine, and the real estate is perfect. But I started to try the Jibon Techo out using it for this work that I do for the association, which is primarily social media and doing e-blast, and so it provides an editorial calendar, and I can schedule things and look at how I'm doing, and so it's working out pretty well. It doesn't have the daily pages, so I couldn't use it for my my hub planner because I found a way to use the daily pages that I am absolutely loving, and is keeping my planner system very compact as opposed to what it's sort of morphed into over the last few years. So now I see where I have spaces to do the things that I need to do. And of course, I need to make sure that I fill this out. These are typically the same things every week. I do the order of service. Now, much of this I've done in advance, but I need to finalize and send to the church secretary for her to complete the bulletins, send to a worship leader and director of music so that they know exactly what's coming, because I do change things up slightly from series to series, and sometimes there might be something special going on in the week, so I want to let them know that. This particular Sunday, we will have the installation of officers, so they're having their orientation, their installation, and their first board meeting, and it's all in the same weekend, which is cool. Sometimes I'm like, this sermon note, it's a social media thing. I should put it on social media, but I tend not to. All right, so this is not in any sort of order in terms of priority, just reminding me of the things I need to do. So my primary things are sermon, well, the worship overall, the message for children, and we have a kids corner in the sanctuary so that after the children's message, instead of the children leaving to go to a separate room, they go to a space that we've carved out in the sanctuary, so they're still with us. Our service is only an hour. We have church school prior to our worship service, which is intergenerational and multi-generational. And so we have the space so that basically during the time of the sermon, just a primary time that they're there, they have something that they can do. So they get their message that's crafted for them, and then they go into what's called the kids corner. So it's a smaller table, lower chairs, and I typically have some sort of coloring pages that are related to either the worship series, the season of the church year that we're in, or the sermon. or one of the scriptures. So somehow it's going to tie in to where we're at that day. And so that's what's at Kids Corner. And if I can find some sort of activity, we'll do that there as well. But so those are things, at least there's plenty of space so that if I need to do something extra, I can, if more things need to happen. We also stream Facebook Live through our church page. And I have to make sure that's prepped for. If I didn't write this down, I would still do all these things because I do them every week. It's ingrained, but I do sometimes, I think it's helpful, even when you know you're doing something, to write it down, to remind yourself, because I know I'm one who will overplan my time. So now I've done all this. Now I'm going to go to my monthly spread, and here's January. And as the month goes on, it gets more decorative. So I'm not one who, I do like a little decoration, but I'm not one who, I like to see where I have space. So what tends to happen is that as the month goes on, I'll fill in spaces that have passed. This particular, like this week, I've done this as well. So after, like, I wouldn't have liked to have all of this going on when the week started. But as the week progressed, after Monday was over, well, Monday was a free day. It was a blissfully free day. And so what did I do? I just put some stickers down there, pretties it up. The rest of the week I'm enjoying it, but it doesn't make me feel like it's cluttered while I'm in the midst of working through that day. As you can see, it's Thursday. The only thing I have here is this meeting that I was at. And I can look at the day and say, okay, this day I can work on whatever I need to. Just visually, it helps me. I'm very visual. And so that's important. So being visual also means that I do enjoy the decorative, but I can't let that overwhelm the function of it. So what I've decided to do is to sort of fill in with decoration as it progresses, so that when I look back, it looks lovely, but it's not so cluttered that it's messing with my organization and function. So on my monthly, I have not even started listening to 2 of these books. I've been listening to Stamp from the Beginning. It's such a good book, but it's one that just sort of emotionally, I think it's helpful to take breaks from. It's not one where I would listen to all in one sitting. You know, it's talking about the history of racism in the United States, and so it's deeply personal. And most of the time, I'm listening to it while I'm driving the car, and I'll listen to it for maybe an hour at a time. Again, on my commute, it's about 50 minutes, so I listen to it on commute one way. The other way, I'll listen to music or something, just because it's not an easy subject matter, but it's important. I also picked up a couple other books. This is deep work. That's more of a development thing. I want to start to listen to that as well. Those are an audible. I'm reading, actually reading, some books in preparation for the Bible study class that I'm going to start here. So that's the other thing I need to put down. So I'm reading those as well, and I'll put those books down. I'm reading those as ebooks. But on my monthly, I'm using this sidebar to really focus on books that I'm reading. Down here I have goals, the Lenten devotional. I'm still working on that. last week I had the plan was to come up with a theme. I've done that, which is daunting. This week, which I still have to do, is determine what the focus scripture is going to be for the devotional and the graphic. Once I do that, the next thing are the daily scriptures. Most of the work is done. But that'll be my plan for next week, working on that. So I'm showing you on my monthly how my big goals for the month translate into my plans for the week. Add advanced worship planning. I'm not going to write anything down for that just yet because I'm planning today, because today again is my planning day. I'm planning to do a lot of that today, so I'm going to see where I end up later on this afternoon and see what I need to transfer to next week. Visioning, I've done some of that for the first quarter, and I think I'll do more of that. I'm setting up a couple of meetings, but again, that's really happening this week, so I'm going to wait until I see where I stand on that before writing anything down for next week. Getting to rest, a book, I tell you, it is so important to me, theoretically, but in terms of scheduling, like I'm going to have to actually write in my schedule. That's what I'm going to have to do. Is I'm going to have to write in my schedule some time when I'm actually going to work on this. So on Tuesdays, I tend to work on, this is unwritten and I'm not going to actually write this down because it is flexible. Tuesdays, I tend to work on worship, like finalizing the worship for the coming Sunday. A lot of that's pre-done. It doesn't take a lot of time, a couple hours, but I tend to do that there. Wednesday, the e-blast that I send out for the association, I do most of that work, that final work there. And I've done some prep work, but I have a block of time, a few hours, 2-3 hours here to make sure that's done. Thursday, I do my planning, so whatever I need to do some planning for happens here. Friday, I kind of leave as a flex day to pick up on, but I'm thinking that I need to, and of course next Friday, I have an event, but it'll be done by the afternoon. I mean, it's a mass at a high school. This is only going to take, even with travel time, we're talking probably about, and a little fellowship afterwards. I should be home or free and clear by 1 o'clock. With travel, fellowship, everything. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to make an appointment for it because it's been so, like, it's one of those things I've been wanting to do for years, to really, and I'm not getting it done. And I'm not getting it done because it's one of those things that I can get to. I don't have a deadline. It's not like I have a book deal or publisher or any sort of external motivation for doing this. Like, this is within me, but it needs to come out, and it's something I keep coming back to. That's the devotional is based on this process, but I want to really put it together in a way so that have an understanding of why it works. Now, I know that it's worked for me, but I really want to flesh it out. And I know it's worked for a lot of people, but I really want to flesh it out. And so I need to do some research, and I need to devote the time to it. So I'm actually going to schedule it, and we'll see how that works. I'm going to have to put this in my phone, though, because if I don't put it in my phone, it's not on my schedule. It's just not. And I don't necessarily have reminders for things like this, But so I don't receive notifications about it. But for this to be on my schedule on a regular basis, but I do often will just look at my phone, particularly first thing in the morning. I'm still just waking up. What do I have going on today? And part of the detail that I have with this is so that I don't have to necessarily look at that. I don't have to actually look at this first thing in the morning. What I do is I look at my phone first thing, like literally as I'm waking up, and a lot of times say, what do I have going on? And or at night, because I've taken a lot of time to do this in advance. That doesn't mean that I don't look at this. I do look at it every day, but I don't necessarily have to look at it first thing in the morning or the last thing at night in order for it to still be functional for me. I think you have to figure out what works for you. And because I'm not a person who has a regular, as you can see, a regular consistent schedule where I can have a regular consistent routine every single day, because every single day is different. I mean, there's certain routines that I do have, but that can be disrupted. If someone has an early morning surgery that I'm going to, and my routine is to go through my planner first thing in the morning, that's not going to work. Doing it at night, even though I'm a night person, during the evening, if I have an evening engagement and then I'm getting home late and then I'm tired and the last thing I want to do is now look at my planner after I've been going all day, that's not going to work. So carving out this time once a week, so I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm going to do the things that that I can do in preparation for the coming week now. So I need to also schedule a meeting amongst a portion of my ministry team. I'm not going to actually write that down. Typically, when I'm doing this, I have my computer or my phone, and I'm doing some of these things. So my phone I'm using to record this right now. Otherwise, I would actually be sending off the email, because now I can see what pockets of time I have available to schedule that. And so I would shoot them off a few times to see if they're available for a conference call. And that's, just a way that this works for me, and I can get so much accomplished so that I'm actually in the process of planning, checking things off, because those are actions that I can take in advance. So now I've looked at my monthly. I'm also going to just really quickly scan to make sure that the week of prayer for Christian unity actually starts here. Do I want to remind myself of that? Yeah, I think I do. So and I just use different pens and markers to add some visual interest. I also have been putting my sermon topic for the week there, and I will do that. I think it's power, but it might be strength. I can't remember. And again, I don't want to get up to go to my computer or my phone is in use. So I'll put that there. And this is pretty much set up. I will go now also to double check and look at my Kanban board, and I have a separate video explaining how this works to see where I am. And also I'll update this, but I will also see if I need to add anything from this. Okay, so the Lenten Daily Devotional, I'm actually doing this. Just put that there. I don't have my highlighter, So I'm just using this gray marker instead of a highlighter. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. Talking and doing at the same time. But I'm moving that from ready to doing because I'm doing that. Have not spent any time on that or that. Not really in that, but I'll probably do that today. This one I'm doing. That's Sunday. So, okay, so I have taking a look at that. That looks pretty up to date. New thing. So this is my first year at this church as pastor. And so this will be my first Lent, my first Ash Wednesday. In the past, this church has hosted a community Ash Wednesday. It's apparently it's fallen by the wayside. Last couple of years, the last 3 years, 3 years prior to my coming, the church did not have a settled pastor. And so some things sort of fell by the wayside temporarily, which I think is understandable. And one was a community Ash Wednesday service. And I'd been wanting to have an Ash Wednesday service. I didn't realize that we'd been hosting one for the community. Found that out and decided to reprise that. But that is something I need to work on as well. I'll show you a little bit of my daily pages. This one, I just started the first year with a quote, my word for the year, and a quote that's related to that. I have a reference page here with just counting off the blocks. I have a little tracker for YouTube videos. I did some brainstorming on healthy whole meals that I've been doing and enjoying, making and enjoying. And so as I'm doing that, just recording them here. It's not that these are new recipes, but they're just a reminder. Part of discovering is also rediscovering, and so this is a page of rediscovery in many cases, but also discovering. So like for instance, I decided after years and years saying, I don't like steak. I decided, you know what, let me try to make a good steak. And so I bought like one steak, a nice cut of meat. I got a ribeye, and I prepared it, the way that chefs talk about doing and all that kind of thing. And it was so good. Like, I do like steak. I had a friend who said to me years and years ago, you eat hamburgers, you put ground beef in so many different things. How can you not like steak? And I'd be like, well, it's the texture. And I just found that my mother used to make steak really well done. And it was just so dry, I couldn't stand it. And I found out that I like mine medium with just a little bit of pink inside. I also don't want it bloody. This is probably, you're like, this is supposed to be a planning video. But I'm sharing a little bit of my personality. But then I made it so that it was just a little bit pink. And it was so good. I couldn't even believe it. This I wrote down when I did the prayer, the invitation to the prayer call video. I referenced it here. I referenced the scripture that I talked about in the video. And so I wrote that out. And on Sunday, I imagine I will often will write out a scripture sort of devotionally and prayerfully related to that week. I have a wellness dashboard video that I recorded quite some time ago, but I'm using it this week. I'm absolutely loving it, so I will do another one. I'm not going to record myself doing another one because I'm going to keep the same exact layout. I'm not sure if this video that I'm currently shooting, this plan with me, or the wellness will come out first. But you'll be able to find it in my channel if you're interested in this. But it's basically tracking, a little bit of inspiration, and it's all here in one place. I used to have an entirely separate planner for this, and it was just too much. I forgot, and yet I would have empty pages in the Hobonichi. So I decided I'm incorporating notes from a meeting. Typically, my past practice would be to have, well, I'm embarking on a new, I joined another organization working on something, and I'm leading a subcommittee, co-leading a subcommittee, and my typical way of functionally dealing with that would be to set up a whole notebook dedicated to that, or to put it in a notebook that where this would fall within the category, because this is the Ohio Council of Churches, which is it's an ecumenical Christian where multiple denominations are involved. They also do some interfaith work. And so I was invited to be part of the building relationships team, and I joined that, and I'm working on a retreat for clergy, which I mentioned in my planning. And so I've had some initial meetings, and I put the meetings in here, the notes from that in here, versus a separate notebook, which would typically be my practice. But I'm really going to try utilizing every space possible here and maximizing my use of this space so that I don't have to look at a bunch of empty pages and feel like I've wasted that space. And also, realistically, how often do I need to go back to these things in that particular notebook, or have to make sure I have that notebook on hand? No, this way, it's all in here. So it's kind of like doing a variation of the one book theme. Instead of doing it for July, it's like I'm doing it for the year. So let me look at what I've got going on. Okay, let's go to Monday. Monday, I'm going to do the wellness. Again, I'm not going to do that on camera, but I am going to mark it up here. So I've been calling that, I've started calling it my wellness dashboard. And so I'm just going to mark it up here, what that's going to be about. I know I'm going to have the board meeting on Tuesday, and the things I talked about that I had to do in preparation, I already have prepared that because I was thinking about it, and I wrote it down on that day. One of the beautiful things about having this dated, Hobonichi does have a day free. I'm not sure if it's an A5 size where it has blank, undated pages, but I decided I like having them already dated. It helps with the indexing. Instead of page numbers, I can record by dates if I need to note where something is being, where something was recorded. On Wednesday, I don't particularly see, Wednesday, I don't particularly see anything I would need to record to set aside. On Thursday, though, I'm having that follow-up call, and so I know that I need to, I'll have notes, so why not just go ahead and block that off. I do have another meeting, but I do have another book, which is my work. It's a Hobonichi cousin. Mega Weeks. Anything that's any notes that are specifically church related, or Kiwanis is not, it's not an organization of the church, but I've joined it as a pastor of a church in this community, and so I do keep notes for that in my mega weeks. So I won't need to put that there. Now, I'm not leading this prayer call, I'm just showing up, so I don't need a place for notes there. I'm going to be doing the Getting to Rest research, but I do have a separate notebook for that because that's a huge project, and again, over time, I don't know how much time it's going to take, and I don't want to clog up this book with that, so I won't use that. The board orientation, any notes for that will go in the mega weeks. The worship. Now I could, the board meeting, that'll go in the mega weeks, notes for that. The ordination, I'm doing a scripture presentation that I'm mapping out, but that will probably be done in my prayer journal. So you can see even that I have the space, and so we'll see what I might need it for. I could do, that's what I'm going to do. I get paid on the 15th and the 30th of every month. And I do like a paycheck budget. So let's put the finance. I was going to put the finance in. So this will be my first one of the year because I do base the 15th and on the 30th. So yeah, put my paycheck budget there. So I still, even with that, now these days, who knows what I'll use those for. I still have plenty of space for notes on things, brainstorming, anything like that I want to put together. All right, I thought this was going to be a quick video because I'd done a setup before, but because I think I wanted to really show you how this whole system works for me and how my planning, my very functional planning works, it became very chatty. And so if you're still with me, I definitely appreciate it. I hope this was helpful and that you got a sense of how these different pieces connect realistically in planning. If you have any questions about anything, please go ahead and comment below. Let me know, do you use any things that are similar in your planning system? Something very satisfying about looking at a week pre-planned, so I know what's coming. I don't have to worry about, Sunday night sitting down, and partly because for me, I work on Sundays as a pastor, and I don't work on Mondays, so that routine doesn't work for me. So I found one that does, and that is, but I think it would be helpful for a lot of folks to actually plan the week a few days out, looking ahead. And then what I will do probably on Friday afternoon, after I've really, because again, Friday tends to be a day that I catch all and try to catch up on and knock a lot of things out that I haven't necessarily done. Then I will begin to migrate anything that I know is not going to happen over the weekend. I'm not going to get to it. So I will just migrate any of those things over here. And if anything else comes up, I can write them. So that is what my next week looks like so far. And I'm really looking forward to productivity and functional work in terms of getting all of these things that I need to, getting them done. And I took this off of, so let's go ahead and put that right back, and we're done. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon, either for another planning with me or for another inspirational video, or if you want to join in the prayer call that I'm doing, you are all welcome to join that as well. Thank you so much for being part of this community, for spending this time with me, and until the next time we connect, be blessed.